Hey everyone, this is Jose here. We are about to start. I would just like to confirm that you guys hear my voice and we are connected. That would be great if you could just have a quick yes on the chat box for me. Wonderful, guys. We're going to start in just a second, okay? I'm just going to wait, let's call it 3 or 4 minutes. So we start just giving a little extra time since today we started with a little bit of a different way on how to log in to the webinar, okay? So I'll wait just a few minutes and we begin. Hi, Nilaran. Yes, the webinar is about to start. I'm just making a little bit of extra time because today the way on how to log in was a little different. So I'm just giving a little extra time. So we're going to start now in a couple of minutes, okay? Very nice, everybody. This is Jose here. I believe it's time to start. So we're going to just begin our session and go over many things today. Have many plans for us. And even before we begin, I would like to ask you all to be very, very interactive on the chat box and ask many of your questions. Okay, so we're using a little bit of a different technology today, which means that when you type your questions, I get to see them. And in order for us to have a very organized way on how to answer them, so we don't miss any, what I will be doing is I will be passing into the screen the questions one at a time so I can answer the questions one at a time. Okay, so be ready for that, and it would be great if you guys are very, very interactive so we can take full advantage of this session and you know, learn a lot and better ourselves and etc. Okay, before we start, very quick, as I always say, let's talk about the least exciting part of the session, which is very important, which is the disclaimer. So let me read it for you. The following videos, clips, demonstrations are for educational purposes and instructional purposes only. Tradictive provides these videos purely for the purpose of demonstrating a method of viewing the product. Users understand that all the content used in the video is purely for demonstration purposes only and is not a guide and does not provide any indication or prediction of actual results. As a user, you understand and agree that hypothetical results obtained through the demonstration do not indicate in any way the results you may receive on using our products. Very good. So we just went over our disclaimer and we are now ready to start. Okay, so let's get organized. Let's get organized here. I can see Kevin posting a question already, which is perfect. But before that, just to be organized, let me change the screen I'm sharing at the moment. I'm just going to move from that particular screen to another screen. Just so I make you aware of certain things that you may know, you may not know, just to make sure we are all in the same page. So let me see here. Yes, this is what I need. Here we go. So at the moment, you should be able to see my screen, which is a web browser, and the web page I have in front of us for us to talk about it is our own website, which is www.tradewithufos.com. The reason why is very simple. I just want to point at a very, very important section in this website, which is the guide section. Okay, I mean, I would say the website itself should be useful at all levels, but the guide section is especially important if you are using AutoUFOs or you are planning to use AutoUFOs. It's very important that you familiarize yourself with the guide. So one way for you to understand better how the tool works is that you click on the guide section and you have two manuals, one for TradeStation 9.5, one for TradeStation 10.x, and you can read those documents by just clicking on the download button. If you are not a lover of downloading manuals, just keep scrolling down and you have a collection of short videos that are located in YouTube that you could play, and they will tell you more about things like, how do I know my TradeStation is ready to access and use the app, or what are the components and settings? What is the calibration? How does it work? So it would be important for you to take a look at all of these so you familiarize yourself. So when it comes to using the tool, you use it properly, because obviously trading and investing implies money on the line, and it would be a shame if you wish that certain trades are not successful or certain trades end up in a problematic situation just because there was not a full understanding of the tool. So in this case, the app AutoUFOs. So make sure you take a look at the guide, okay? And also, of course, as you are familiarizing yourself with the guide, which I know that some of you, based on emails that we have received, I know some of you, really studied very, very precisely those user guides. Well, as you are doing that, if you have any question, make sure you email us, or you can also click here, reach, and you can send your messages or questions, and then we will respond to you. Okay, so you either use the email reach@tradewithufos.com, or you just use the form in this website as well that you can see right below. Anyway, the second thing I would like to for you to be aware of is the next tab I have here in my web browser, which is the TradeStation Trading App Store. A question that we have received a few times via emails is, okay, how do we get access to the app? Well, to get access to the app, you need to have an account with TradeStation. And having an account with TradeStation will give you access to the TradeStation App Store. Just like when you access or add an app to your iPhone or your Android phone, it's kind of the same with TradeStation. Once you have an account with TradeStation, you can connect with TradeStationTradingAppStore.com, and then you can look up for the AutoUFOs app, and then you could install it. Notice that there are two ways on how to use the app. One is the free trial, and then is the subscription, which means that now you have committed to use the app for a longer time, and therefore you have to subscribe because obviously the free trial is limited in time. Okay, so here's where you would find it. And finally, the last section I would like to show you is also our Facebook page, and I want to show you all of these because this could be quite useful to you. Because obviously these are tools that we are using to promote the app. But way beyond promoting the app, what I would like to do in today's session is to to support you on how to use the app. And the Facebook page obviously is very helpful for that, because there are many trade examples that are being posted by some of our users that are kind enough to share their trades with us. And some of the examples could be great examples that could be, I would say, as far as at times educational. So here, for example, you can see one of our users that executed a trade, and here you can see the comments on the right. and sometimes you can even learn from not only the trade itself, but also some of the mistakes a trader may make when trading, or some of the consequences of certain rules in a trade plan. So in this case, you could see this trade at some point was probusing a pretty powerful result. Then the trade was closed for $570 of profit. So probably the target was not hit, but some trade management technique was in place, so the trader still managed to get some profit out of the trade, even though the target was not hit. So this is, some of those trades you may want to take a look and learn from the experience. You will see that some of those trades, let me scroll down a little bit, are very simple. For example, here's a trade with one of our users, Milan. And what Milan was doing, ready to trade crude oil in a very, very small time frame, is using a 500 share bar here. And notice how he identified this red UFO where he was ready to sell, selling 2 contracts with a stop above. I know I have a question here on the chat box where Kevin is asking about stops. So we'll talk about that in a few moments. But here you can see the stop is located right above the red UFO with a target 1 here, the blue line, and a target 2 there, right? And in the end, this trade was, did work well according to plan, which is obviously not always the case. But in this case, it's a great example to illustrate a proper use of the AutoUFOs app. And all those examples could be very inspirational when you are in the process of building your trading plan, okay? Because obviously a trader needs a trading plan, okay? That's really, really important for you all to have a set of rules that you follow with discipline. So just in case you were not aware of, I'm just displaying a little bit more here, just scrolling down. I wanted you all to be aware of that apart from our website and the TradeStation App Store, we also have some social media pages like Facebook in this case, or LinkedIn as well, also Instagram, where you can see all those trade examples and you can go ahead and take a look and sometimes even learn from them. Not all those trades are profitable. Some of those examples actually are losses, which is great for you to be able to learn from both sides, how to profit professionally and also how to lose professionally, which both sides are just as important, okay? But anyway, having said all this little introduction here, let's now move into TradeStation itself. So I am changing the screen sharing to the TradeStation platform. So now in a minute, you're going to be able to see my charts. And the moment you see my charts, now we're going to be able to start looking at many things, okay? So let's get organized, because this is really when the session begins and it's going to get much more useful. So first of all, I would like you all to type in the chat box any and all questions you may have. Questions that could be related to the app because you have used the app and some questions arise, or questions that you may have because you have never used the AutoUFOs app and maybe you have watched some of the prior YouTube videos or something, and you are curious to know certain things about how the app functions or things like that. So any question, any and all questions, please go ahead and type in the chat box. So little by little, as the session progresses, as I was saying before, I will be taking those questions from the chat box, posting them into the main screen one at a time. Instead of having the whole list of questions in front of us, which is a little overwhelming, I will be moving the questions one at a time in the main screen, and I will be giving proper answers for all those questions, okay? So no matter the type of question you have, just go ahead and post them. Another thing that I would like you to do is, apart from posting questions on the chat box, is I would like you also you to post certain trade ideas you may have at the moment. Maybe earlier today you were looking at the euro. Maybe earlier today you were looking at the S&P, or you were looking at crude oil, or maybe you were looking at, Apple, or maybe you were looking to trade some options. So if you have any trade idea, any trading opportunity that you are planning to execute, or you have executed either for a profit or for a loss, and you would like us to review this together, to either learn from a good trade or learn from a mistake or plan a trade that hasn't happened yet and we plan it together, please go ahead and post this on the chat box as well, and I will be moving all those comments and questions to the main screen one at a time, so we can talk about it properly. Okay. So that's the plan, and later on, once we have gone over all those questions and concerns and trades and everything, later I will want to also demonstrate a little bit the use of the tool. Plan a couple of trades, take a look at a few things out there that we may be able to do together, and kind of help you to put together a trading plan, a methodology, a process for you to follow, so you spend less time looking for trades and you act more mechanically when it comes to trading. Because in the end, and please say yes or no in the chat box. This is an easy question, but please, so I get all of you engaged with that one. Say yes or no. Would you agree with me if I say that the job of a trader is to produce consistent results, and the only way to have consistent results is to have consistent action? Meaning that if your action is random instead of consistent, then your results will be random unless you're lucky. And because luck does not last forever, you understand that for you to be consistent in results, you have to be consistent with your actions. Would that make sense, everybody? Please say yes or no in the chat box. That would be very, very, very nice for me to see. Even though you guys will not see it as you type it, I will see it on my side, and then I'll be sharing with all of you. Okay. And in the meantime, I'm going to go back up to look for the first question, coming from Kevin Trenby. So here we go. I'm just going to move the question to the stream. So Kevin said, how do you manage your stops with the UFO? Okay, so this is the first question I got here on the chat box, and thank you for your responses, guys. So here's the first question I got in the chat box. How do you manage stops? Okay, and so let's take a look at crude oil. Okay, so for example, here we have an example with crude oil, and let me give you an initial answer to this very important question. So you have crude oil here. If you were to use the UFOs by themselves, if you were to keep it super crazy simple and use one time frame only for your trades, I guess that one very, very basic way on how to approach the trade would be to buy when crude oil comes to this green UFO, expecting price to go up, right? So you would buy when this happens. So let me make this blue color, right? And you would then sell. Okay, you would then sell crude oil that you bought in the green UFO. So you would sell crude oil when it reaches the red UFO above. And that would be like a super basic application of how to use UFOs. And in this case, and that could be a valid trade because there is a lot of room between the UFOs. So you could make a pretty nice profit here by buying around 52.90 and selling around 53.87. It's almost one full point. So that would be a very nice profit. Now, the question that Kevin had has to do with the stop. And the stop means what if it does Hey everybody, could you please confirm that you hear me? I got a little problem with my internet connection, and it seems that everything is back to normal, but I would like to confirm that you hear my voice, and you will see my screen in just a second. Okay, guys, could you please confirm that you hear me? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. I apologize for this. I don't know what happened exactly. I found myself talking to myself. I guess a little interruption with the connection, so sorry for that, okay? Got it. So, guys, I'm going to continue with the explanation where I was, okay? Unfortunately, I have lost the questions that you guys were typing on the chat box. So I would like to ask you all, guys, when you have a second, to go ahead and retype or copy paste the questions that you had before again, so I can get them back, and that way I don't miss any one question, okay? Okay, good. So thank you for that. And again, thanks for the patience as well, because technology problems is always uncomfortable for everybody. And in this case, we're all suffering them. So thanks for your patience, guys. So anyway, coming back to the stop conversation, in this example, I was making this, I was kind of building this trade example where you would expect to buy when it comes to the green UFO, you would expect to sell when it goes to the red UFO. Basically, if I talk about those two scenarios, I am talking about what to do when the trade works according as per plan. But the stop is precisely there to address what happens when the market goes against you, and therefore actually your plan is not working as you expected it to work, and that's why you have to have the stop. So then, of course, you could select to have the stop anywhere you want. You could say, as a trader, you could do anything you want. You could say, okay, I'm gonna buy in the green UFO, I'm gonna sell in the red UFO, and my stop is gonna be all the way down all this collection of green UFOs they have located upon each other. And if you were to do that, well, obviously you are very well protected. You are very, very unlikely to be stopped out if your stop was located all the way down there. But the problem is that now, if you were to compare the amount of money that you put at risk, which from here to here, if I was to measure that, right, and let me make this to be red color. So red means the amount of money you're going to lose. If you were to measure that, let me show net change. That would be 0.76 points. If you were to compare that to the amount of money you would make if you were to reach your target. And let me change this to the green color. So we know green is profit and red is loss. Well, now you are shooting to risk 76 ticks in order to make 95 ticks, which basically, this is basically a trade where you're risking almost the same amount of money compared to the amount of money that you want to make. So from a probability point of view, it makes a lot of sense. Now, from a risk management point of view, it would be very poor. So this would not be recommended. It would be more efficient if you were to move your stop to a nearer location, in this case, below the green UFO, where the white space is, right? Because the white space is basically where this market is not likely to go, that white space. And now you are risking 16 to make 95. Well, that would make sense. Okay, that would make sense. And it would only make sense even if you were to end up being stopped out and lose 16 on this trade. And then you were to replan a new trade to buy using the next UFO, and you were to rebuy again with another stop. Okay, in this case, you have two UFOs very close to each other. So again, you need to go for the white space. Okay, so if you were to do that, the first trade would have lost you 16. The second trade would have lost you 29. Well, 16 and 29, that is 35, 45, if I'm not 35. Let me say that again, 45, okay? So this is 45 ticks of risk, which if you compare with what we had before, that was 76, it's much, much less. So it will be worth it to plan on 2 trade with a nearer stop instead of 1 trade where you collected all those green UFOs all together. So as a rule of thumb, just put your stops in the white space beyond where the UFOs are. Okay, and only when you have cases where UFOs are kind of overlapping each other, well, that's when you need to find where's the next white space. Okay, and then of course on top of all of this, which is the answer to your question, Kevin, you would also obviously need to keep under consideration, other conditions of the trade. Okay, because maybe if the market is going so low, maybe it's because the trend is moving down, for example, and maybe you don't want to be a buyer anymore. So, there would be other conditions. Later, when I look for some trade opportunities, I will show you some examples of trades and you will understand better what I mean by conditions. Okay, but just to be purist and to answer the question about where to put the stops, well, that would be the answer. Okay, that would be the answer to the question on where to put the stops. You will basically want the stops to be on the white zones, not on the color zones, to avoid too much risk and also to avoid being stopped out and then see the price move your way. Okay, so this is one of your questions, Kevin. I also have other questions that you didn't post in the chat box, but you did send to us via email. So if you don't mind, Kevin, I am going to try to get that on the main screen. Let me see if this works. Hopefully you see the question on the main screen. In case you don't see the question in the main screen, I will read it for you guys. The other question that Kevin had was, what I am looking for is the GPS. So I spend less time looking for on-field orders. I am more of a swing trader than a day trader. Don't really want to sit in front of my charts for hours every day. This is a question that Kevin shared with us. Anyone else in the group at the moment shares that particular concern or need, that when it comes to trading, you're spending too much time looking for market opportunities? Because if that's the case, I would like to very quickly demonstrate a little process, and I'm just going to demonstrate it very, very quickly. And then later in the session, I'll take it a little more in depth and spend a little more time. But for now, just to give you a little initial feel for it, okay? So please, in the chat box, share with me if you are having that same concern as well, okay? Okay, and I see many other questions in the chat box as well. I'll come back to all of this, okay? Good. So, guys, you are seeing my screen here, my TradeStation, and let's say, for example, you are a Forex trader. I'm just going to pick Forex, for instance, okay? And so what have I done here inside of my TradeStation? Well, inside of my TradeStation, I just loaded a scanner window, right? So you got your scanner. If you get into your trading apps here, and you got the scanner app, right? So that's the one I have here, and I have created a new scan called Forex that I have inserted by clicking the Insert button. And if I click on the Format button here, okay, I'm doing something super, super simple. I have added as a symbol universe a bunch of currency pairs that I trade. And then in the scan criteria, I'm just looking at 2 moving averages. And again, the technical indicators are often not too useful, but used in the right context, they could really help to save time or filter. So this is what I'm trying to do here. So what I have here on the left is a moving average, which is a 21 period moving average applied to a 60-minute time frame. And I am comparing this with the 34 period moving average applied to the same 60-minute time frame. And what I want to find is currency pairs, Forex currencies, where the 21 moving average is greater as you can see here, than the 34. In other words, currency pairs that are moving up. So I'm going to click run. And the moment I click run, here, TradeStation is going to perform a process. Okay, so I'm going to have to be a little patient here, 23%. Here we go. And now I got 9 currencies, right? Where if I click Euro, Australian dollar, Euro AUD, and of course I need to move to the 60-minute time frame because that was the request I had on the filtering. I could change that to any time frame. But notice how the Euro Australian dollar, it's moving up. Okay, and that's what I was looking for when I did the filtering. If you are looking for currencies or stocks or futures markets moving up, this is one way to find them. Okay, what's the problem? The problem is that for me to buy them, I also need green UFOs. And guess what? The Euro AUD has none. So very simple, no time to waste here. Let's go for the next currency, the Euro CAD. So now I'm gonna go for the Euro CAD. And here we go. What do we have? What do we have now? Well, we have a currency moving up, and we do have green UFOs. So when this market comes to the green UFOs, I could certainly trade the Euro Canadian dollar. And when it gets to the red UFO, I could certainly take my profits. Okay, that could be one way to approach it. Now, the only problem is that if you think about what we just said about stops and targets, well, the space that I have here in between, the green and the red, will represent the size of my profit. And the space that corresponds to the 2 green UFOs that are overlapping each other corresponds with my risk, the amount of money I would have, the distance between my entry and my stop, which means that probably this trade is not good enough for us to take. Probability-wise, it makes sense, but based on the amount of money you're going to make compared to the amount of money you would lose if you're wrong, the trade would not be worth it. So what do? No waste of time. Go for the next one. Click on the British pound, Australian dollar. And now what? Well, now, actually, as we speak, the British pound, Australian dollar is entering a green UFO, so it's actually time to buy. Now, here, this may not be the best trade in the world, even though to some of you, this trade I would say could be valid, because here you are risking this amount of money. I'm going to make it red. Okay, so the high of the circle is to not to get confused with the red UFOs. I'll make it magenta. So the magenta circle represents the risk, where the high of the blue circle, okay, I'm going to make it blue right now. Let me click in the right place first. The size of the blue circle represents the profit. So this is kind of like, if I was to do the math, probably it's like a 1.5 to 1, something like that. Okay, so maybe to some of you this one could make sense. To me, this trade is still weak. It's a high probability trade, but the reward and the risk is not good enough. So maybe you would pass on it, okay? Or maybe you would take it. It would depend on your risk parameters. I'm going to make this better later at the end of the session, okay? But for now, I'm just showing you a little bit on how to save time. So now you click on the 4th symbol. And what do we have now? Here we go. Now we have a trade. You see? Now we have a trade. Why? Because this market is moving up. It's entering a green UFO. And the distance to where the rival red UFO is very far away. So there is a lot of room for this market to move. And this uptrend that started not too long ago to keep developing, because there is nothing to stop this uptrend to keep developing unless a new institution steps in and, change the nature of this market. Assuming all the conditions remain, this market does provide a great potential for profit. And what do? Well, you just execute this trade, and that's it, and you're done for the day, if that was your style. Okay, if you want to be more active, of course, you don't use the 60-minute time frame. If you want to be less active, then you would use other time frames. Again, at the end of the session today, I'll demonstrate a little better this. But again, looking at Kevin's question and the need that all human beings have in the whole planet Earth, which is to save time. Well, this is one way on how to do it, to kind of combine the UFOs with a scanner. Or a watch list that I have on the left with a predefined set of timeframes that you already know you want to use because they are part of your plan. So again, I'll get more detail on all of this. Next question from Kevin, and then I will change a trader, and I will go for questions from other traders as well. So Kevin also said, let me try to copy this on the screen. the way, did you guys see earlier when I copied on the screen the question? Did you guys see it on the screen? Let me see if you see it this time. So please say yes or no in the chat box. That would be useful for me because, again, I'm using a few tweaks of this technology. So, wonderful. Thank you. So another question I had from Kevin was, I've traded 3 trades live with AutoUFOs. The zones that I agree should have plenty of unfilled orders. My plan was to hold them until the next opposing zone on the UFO app. All 3 reached 1-to-1, but then turn and stop me out. So bottom line, there were 3 losing trades. All the examples I've seen suggest I should target the next opposing zone. Is this correct? Any thoughts that may help me? Very, very good question. And, again, it's super important in those sessions that we address not only the trades that were profitable, but also the trades that were problematic. I think that probably is going to be one of the most important parts when we get together and we talk about how to use AutoUFOs. Because, for example, in this case, talking about the GBP CAD again, what a beautiful room for profit that we have here. But this is what we see in this time frame. And, we need to be realistic as well, because if our UFOs are very close to each other, then hitting targets is going to happen very often. If our UFOs are very far from each other, then hitting targets is going to happen less often. So what's right and what's wrong? Well, in the end, there is no magic answer, and it really depends on your plan. Some traders, based on their psychology and their objectives, and this also comes with experience, some traders prefer to use AutoUFOs in a way where they just let the trade do whatever it has to do and they never touch the trade. And if they end up with a profit, which is temporary, and then they end up in a loss, they are happy with it because the day they end up with the profit that they were expecting is a huge one. And that grows their account, and some traders are happy with that. If this was to be your philosophy or your mentality, Kevin, then those 3 trades that ended up problematically would not be a big deal. But based on the fact that you were commenting on it, like it's a bad thing, what I'm guessing is that based on your personality, probably you don't welcome that. So how can you fix those things? Well, there are certain things that we could do, but one way to fix it, let me give you an example. To change screen very quickly. And we have many users doing what I'm about to show you here. So I'm just sharing my screen. I'm going back to the website. So you are about to see the website in just a second. And I want to show you here examples with trades taken by one of our traders, Milan, who is doing a fantastic job. But take a look. Okay, take a look. I'm just going to open the screenshot here. Notice how in this particular trade, Milan was planning to sell short using the red UFO, the one that is dark. So Milan was ignoring the bottom red UFO because it's lighter, and you probably remember from prior sessions that the lighter UFOs initially they carry less probability. Okay, so Milan was shooting for the highest UFO, and the target was the opposing green UFO, exactly as you described in your question, Kevin. But notice that out of safety, what has he done? He has a target 1 mechanically calculated at 1-to-1, where he unloads half of the position. And then target 2, it's the final destination. Why is he doing that? Well, I don't know the full answer to this, but my guess would be, first of all, and most importantly, because it's part of his plan. Second, because probably his personality is a personality where he doesn't like that experience to happen, to see a trade work your way, and then you get stopped out. And another way to protect that would be to maybe move stops. You can certainly, during the life of a trade, this is independent of UFOs, but certainly you could certainly move your stop while you're in a trade and the trade starts moving in your direction. You can certainly follow the price with your stop. But the problem of that is that many traders unless new UFOs have formed while price was moving, well, many times you would see price retrace and stop you out and then gets to your target. So the way Milan avoids all those situations is very simple. Mechanically, he uses a target at 1-to-1 all the time, where he unloads half of the position. So if the trade was not to work and it was to be stopped out, because he already took half of the profits at 1-to-1 and then he gets stopped out, well, the trades will never lose as long as you have reached that initial 1-to-1 target. Okay, but notice that he's doing that all the time. You can see that here in this crude oil trade. That was posted on November 29. If I go back to, I believe it was today. If I go back to today, here we go. So this is today. Milan, same story. Entry, stop, and target. Notice how you got that intermediate target. Even though the final target is going to be the opposing UFO, if you wish, you got this intermediate target in the middle of the path to avoid those problematic situations. Okay, so again, coming back to what I said at the beginning of the session, I believe that having you guys in a regular basis observe some of those trade examples could actually help you very much to identify things that you could do that could potentially make your trading more efficient. Okay, so good job to Milan, and also very good job to Kevin for practicing the trading, for asking the questions and sending the emails as well. Okay, and now I'm gonna change trader, and I have here in the chat box I have a supply and demand trader. Here we go. So the first was a comment, not a question. Here we go. So let's go for the next one. Jose, I trade both. Oh, by the way, let me move your question to the stream so everybody can see. And you say, Jose, I trade both Forex and options. I want to be able to quickly move through markets and quickly identify on-field orders, supply and demand, and I think AutoUFOs will save me hours of time. Can I check if I'm using it the right way? On the Australian dollar, can you please go to a 20-minute chart? I love these guys. This is what you guys should be doing every time we do a session. That's fantastic. This is exactly the way to take full advantage of those sessions. So I'm changing my chart to the Australian dollar, moving to the 20-minute time frame. Here we go. And supply and demand trader said, can I please move to the 20-minute chart using AutoUFOs? I would put an order to buy at 72.36. Okay, 72.36. So let me go ahead and put the numbers in place. So 72.36, here we go. Okay, so you're targeting this below UFO, 72.36, and a stop at 72.19. Okay, so stop at 72.19. Here we go. Very good. The stop is in the white location, so based on what we said before, that's looking very good to me. And target one just below the red level at 72.95. $72.95. $17.95 is there. I believe probably you were planning this trade a few minutes ago. So probably a few minutes ago, you had a red UFO here. I would be guessing that because at the moment it's not there. Okay, at the moment it's not there. Okay, but I would guess it was there before. And then target two just below the next level at 73.37. So 73.37. $73.37. Here we go. Oh, or maybe, okay, got it. So maybe you are looking at this UFO and you're trying to be conservative here. Got it. Yes, it makes a lot of sense to me, actually. I think that's a beautiful plan. And really, if you think about it, talking about your comment about spending little time planning the trade, you just had to find green and red. That's it. So it's not taking much time, isn't it? And you have done a very good job identifying the location of those lines. So this would be your entry point. I'm just going to type it. This would be your entry point. Then you would have your exit point. That obviously would be a stop order. So here would be exit in case you are proven not successful in this trade. And then those would be your exit for a profit. Okay, so take profit 1 right here, and then take profit 2. Okay, so now I would say what you have done is a very good and very thorough application of the methodology. I would just like to add a comment. And again, this is just an attempt to make this better, which supply and demand trader, I think you have done it very well already. So my attempt may not be the best, but here is a comment for us to consider. Notice how those UFOs on the top are dark, and therefore they are a real threat for the price to keep moving higher, and therefore the location of your target here, it's very, very intelligent. Okay, very good place for the target. Take profits too. But this one, notice how this one is of a lighter color. So, I mean, this may still produce some sort of a move to the downside because we have unfilled orders and, you know, the AutoUFOs app is identifying them. So definitely, for sure, something to be respected. But coming back to the conversation we just had with Kevin, maybe, you know, because this UFO is going to carry less probability of success, and if the price goes that low and starts going back up, that's going to be developing an uptrend, and in an uptrend the red UFOs will have the tendency to work less than the green UFOs because it's an uptrend, and this one happens to be lighter. So I would kind of almost propose to totally discard this guy and just move the target one down a little bit, somewhere around that location. Okay, I mean, let's do the math properly. So if I calculate the difference between 72.36 and 72.19, sorry, 72.36 and 72.19, we're talking about 17 pips. If I add 17 pips to 72.36, the one-to-one target is 72.53. So maybe coming back to Kevin's question, you could set your target one at 72.53. That should be pretty doable or reachable. And of course, this is trading, so there is no guarantee. We can always be stopped out, isn't it? We all know that. But that should be very doable. And then next thing you know, you totally remove the risk of the trade. And now, again, it would make sense to bet on take profit 2 by ignoring this red UFO, because it's a lighter UFO, and if price was to reach that level, we are not that high, but we are certainly in an uptrend. So that red UFO is probably going to be traded through, even though it may create some sort of a bounce temporarily. Ultimately, it may go beyond that. Okay, so supply and demand trader. If you have any comment to what I just commented on your post, please let me know. You were shooting for 5-to-1. Let me pause what you just had before. So you were shooting for 5-to-1 reward to target one and 8-to-1 reward to the next target. I get you. I just made your trade a little more conservative, but as I said at the beginning, your trade made sense. Okay, your trade made a lot of sense. So certainly, way to do it. Okay. As I said, it was difficult to improve your plan, so good one. Next one, supply and demand trader. I have another question from you here. Let me show in the stream. So it says, supply and demand trader, question about Amazon credit spread I took yesterday that I identified using AutoUFOs that is making me money. Good. I love this. So let's load Amazon. I have Amazon here on the left. So let's load Amazon. And can you go to a 60-minute chart of Amazon? I love it, love it. Here we go. So here's Amazon, 60-minute chart. And so what do we have here? I looked at this yesterday morning. So you know what? Since it was yesterday, let me go back in time, just so we all have the same picture you had yesterday. I'm going to move this to December 4. So this is how Amazon looked like yesterday. Did I select it? Oh, okay, I got it. Yeah, I need to use December 3, guys, because it's a computer clock thing being in Asia, guys. So let me go ahead and use December 3. Here we go. So this is how it was looking like the day before. I believe that's where we're at. So let me read detail, with no rush. What do you have here? What do you show? A fresh supply in a dark red, a strong level in the price around 1753. So you saw the credit spread above that. 1753. The price is a little higher than that at this moment in time. I am guessing that maybe it was the day before. Let me see. Amazon. Here we go. Loading again. Okay, so 1753. Oh, I know what's probably happening here, guys. I know what's probably happening here. Give me a second here, guys, because I have different. Yeah, I know what's happening here. So I'm using. I have multiple accounts with TradeStation, and this one is only giving me data from the BATS exchange, and therefore the shape of those candles are not exactly the same as if you get data from all exchanges. So that's probably why you had a UFO and I didn't have it at that price. Okay. Let me try to fix that. Give me a second, guys. Let me try to fix that. Because I was using a username that only gives me access to Forex and futures. So let me switch to the one that gives me access to equities and options. So equities and options. And now I believe we should have this fixed. Give me a second here. And by the way, in the meantime, while I'm reloading all of this, supply and demand trade, would you mind to share what is the input that you have for your UFOs? Are you using the basic 0.5 or using another parameter? Because that could be the other reason why you see certain UFOs I didn't see. So please let me know more about that. I'm going to be sharing my screen right now again. And I just changed my login parameter. So this chart is still pending data here on the upper left. You can see I'm reloading the whole cache folder with the data. So yeah. Anyway, so you're using the basic, meaning that you're using 0.5. Okay, that's what you're using. Good. Okay, so let me reread your message. Maybe I read it wrongly. Sorry for spending so much time there. I got kind of stuck with the figures. 1753. Yeah, and you are selling the 1850. So I think that instead of 1753, probably what you meant is the 1853. Could that be possible? I think that's what you mean, right? Because 1753, I just don't have it. No matter the data feed that I use for the charts, no matter the data feed, I don't see it. So I believe that since you have done the spread with the 1850, so probably that's what 1850. Got it. Sorry for that. I just got stuck with the figure and I got a little confused. Okay, so anyway, let me reread that. So as long as Amazon stays below 1150, so basically what you have done is that, let me write it on the screen so the attendees that are not trading options understand better what you have done. So you have sold a credit spread at those levels. Why? Because when you sell a credit spread, you get paid some premium. And as long as the market does not go there, you get paid. As long as it stays there or below, you get paid. You don't care if it goes very high or little high or very low or little low. As long as it doesn't reach 1850, which is your strike, then you are fine. That's what you have done, okay, which is a fantastic application of options trading, okay? So I am now considering selling a put spread at 1650. Very nice. I know what you're doing. And this is the way to do it. Yes, I'm just reading you now. It was 1819 to 1833. So let me put this on the screen as well. I got a lot of text on the chat box, so I got a little confused with the text. I'm sorry for that, guys, because maybe I confused you a little too. But anyway, so you sold a credit spread at those levels. Let me go back to the date that we were mentioning. It was the day after. Here we go. So when the market went up, but it was not likely to keep going higher, you sold a spread. And now that you sold the spread and you collected, let me write it down here so the people that don't trade options can follow better. So you sold the credit spread and you collected hefty premium. Okay, hefty premium collected. Why? Well, because those options were inflated on Amazon, and on top of that, Amazon was moving higher. So the call spread, okay, the call spread, because that was a spread with calls, the call spread paid you hefty premium, right? Now, what happened next? Remember, for you to profit from this, you just need this to not to go higher. That's all you need. You don't need it to go higher. That's all. As long as it stays there or below and it doesn't go up, it's good enough. It doesn't matter how high or low it goes. So after that, Amazon went down. So that credit spread, I'm sure, is paying you very, very well at this moment in time. But now you are saying, let me see. Because now you want to leg in the put side as well, isn't it? So let me get the text and share it with the group. Okay, let me see. Yes, I mean, actually, I shared it with the group already. Let me share it again because it's in the bottom part of it. Okay, so I'm sharing your text with the group one more time, which is that now you are considering selling a put spread using 1600. And the reason why you are looking at the 1600 is because you have multiple green UFOs on top of each other. So you are planning now to sell tomorrow, I guess, a credit spread, in this case with puts, and collect another more hefty premium. Okay, after you collected hefty premium with the calls, now you're going to do the same with the puts. And now what you need is you just need this thing to not to go below this green UFO, where you have 3 green UFOs to defend yourself. So it's quite unlikely for this to happen anytime soon. So basically what you're doing here if I was to get a little technical with options, which is it's not the purpose of this section, but just for fun, what you are doing here is that you are basically doing a short strangle, but the way that you have done the short strangle, it's by legging into it. You got the call side first, thanks to the UFOs, and then you got the put side next, thanks to the UFOs, instead of doing the call and the put side all together at the same time, which is okay, but it's much more efficient to do it the way you did. So very good job there, supply and demand trader. Very, very good job. I have nothing to add, my friend. You're doing a very good job. Thanks for sharing. Let me see a few more questions I can see. So what do we have here? I got Nilan Jan, sorry, got a question here. So let me put it on the stream. Nilan Jan said, are some of those zones for entry and some are for target specifically? Well, the way the app works is that the app is simply identifying on-fielders to buy and on-fielders to sell. So all zones, initially, all zones are to be used for entry and to be used for exit if you were to trade all the zones. Okay, now what may happen, like for example, if you look at the example we just had with supply and demand trader, he's not planning on trading all the zones. He's doing what is known in options trading a non-directional trade, where he's just betting on the price remaining within a range during a period of time. So he's not using all the zones. He's just using multiple zones to defend himself and expecting price to stay in a range. That's another way to trade. Another way to trade as well. Earlier, we saw a case with the Australian dollar trade that supply and demand trader also shared with us, where I was proposing to actually ignore one of the red UFOs because it was lighter, and at that moment in time, that market may be in an uptrend and not so high. So that may provide a little bit of a bounce to the downside, but nothing spectacular. So that could be used for target, but not for entry. Or you could certainly ignore it for both purposes, targets and entry, depending on the context of your trade and the rules of your plan. Some of you in here, I'm pretty sure, and please feel free to share in the chat box, because it would help me understand better what you guys need for future sessions too. But some of you here, I'm pretty sure, are traders who may like to follow the trend. Some of you may be traders who don't care about the trend at all. Some of you may be traders who want many trades per day. Some of you may be traders that want few trades per day. Some of you are traders who like a plan with many rules. Some of you are traders that like a plan with little rules. And I could keep going and going, but hopefully you get my point. And what I'm trying to say is that the extra rules that you will have on top of your UFOs is what ultimately Nilanjan would tell you which zones to use and which zones to not to use. Okay, I have a trade here from Mark. Okay, so let me put the trade here on the screen. Please let me know if you see the trade on the screen, because this question was posted on YouTube, and therefore I'm not fully sure if you guys see it on the screen right now as we speak, okay? But the question that Mark had is, please, can we find a credit spread opportunity? And if that's okay, Mark, I would like to do that in the next section, in the next session that we will do, okay? Because now we need to talk a little bit about options, and it will take more time. And since we are closer to the end of the session, actually we have been together for an hour already. So I would say, what about next day when we get together? We start the day or early in the day, we look at a little bit of options. Okay, that would be great. Before we go, remember, I want to show you a simple process for you to find more trades more easily with less time spent. So let me do that today, and then we will do the options the other day. Okay. I have another question from Nilanjan, and again, I'm gonna post it I'm going to post it. Hopefully you guys will see it on the screen. No one has confirmed. So I would guess that the way I am posting it, you don't see it because this question was posted on YouTube. So I'm just gonna read it for you. Nilanjan said, what does differentiating indicates? Are also some UFOs meant only as Got it. That's kind of like the prior question you had. So basically, the darker, the higher probability, the lighter, the lesser the probability. Okay, but this is when I would like to ask you to take a look at the user guide, and then you can ask us questions, and also you can also review the prior sessions that we did, because 2 weeks ago I did talk about that intensively. Thank you guys. Some of you were also answering that. Thank you for your collaboration here. Here we go. I'm just reading. Very good, very good. Okay, I'm just reading, guys. So I have London Trader here. Let me take your question here, London Trader. I'm just copying and pasting it again, but I don't think you guys can see that unless you're watching the YouTube stream. So it says that I have done the same method in the past, take 50% off a one-to-one, and psychologically it is very powerful. It means that you can lose on the trade and relaxes you. Exactly. So it's a mindset trick, if you wish, right? So, and we know that trading could be an emotional game, or I should say is an emotional game, and therefore that could be of a help depending on your trading personality and also the amount of time that you have traded. You know, it's not the same that you have traded for, let's say, 2 months that you have traded for, let's say, 10 years. It's not the same, okay? Next question also from London Trader. Jose, can you give us any suggestion as to how far into the white zone we should place stops? That's a very, very good question as well. Because of lack of time, I will not be able to answer this one, but if you don't mind, London Trader, send me an email with this, and I will address this in the next session, because I will need to differentiate between markets that trade in exchange, markets that don't trade in exchange, like, for example, spot Forex. That will take me a long time to explain, and it's a very important question. So if you don't mind, pass it back to us in the form of an email, and we'll take care of it in the next section. Next question I have here is, maybe this is difficult to answer. This is another question from London Trader. Due to the various instruments and the time zones in question, could this maybe calculate using the ATR? Here we go. You just read, you kind of said what I said. So yeah, the ATR could be useful, but still, it depends if the market that you trade trades in an exchange or is not traded in an exchange like spot Forex. So let's talk about it in a different session. The last few days, let me take a look at the next post from London Trader. So let me copy, paste here. Okay, and today, guys, in case you haven't noticed, today we are using different technology for the session. So we're doing the webinar via Eyes On, but instead of the way we did it last time, it's more a webinar format. But we're also streaming this live in YouTube and Facebook at the same time. So some of you are connected in YouTube, some of you in Facebook, some of you inside the webinar, okay? So that's why today I am also learning a little bit about this system. So I will become more efficient as time passes and we spend time together in here, okay? London Trader, the last few days I have been playing with the tool, and even just trading UFO to UFO level looks like you will get amazing results. Yes, indeed. And you can actually measure that, isn't it, with the stats. So then, of course, it all depends on the size of your trades and where you place your stops. So, but certainly, okay, that's one way to do it. I would add to what you said, London Trader, that maybe the only problem of doing that is that maybe it's too many trades. Okay, maybe it's too many trades. So having a few extra rules on top of it, the way I will demonstrate in a minute, may make you even a better trader. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Yeah, thank you for that, London Trader. You will send an email. Very good. Nice, perfect. Okay, guys, so to conclude the session, what I would like to do is spend a few more minutes and I will let you go. I'm not sure how long it's going to take me, but let's call it 10 to 15 minutes. And what I would like to do is, again, back to the process of finding trades, back to the request of many of you where you talk about, I would like to be able to trade and spend less time trading, or use less of my time to plan trades, or have a process, or have rules. Look at that. Let me ask you this question. And please, everybody, everybody, give me an answer on those chat boxes. Okay, that's an important question, guys. Okay, with a yes or a no. And I'm the only one who is going to see the answer, so I'm not going to share that on the screen. So, everybody, feel free to expose yourselves, okay, so I can help you better. With a yes or a no, type yes in the chat box if you have rules that are written, which is your trading plan, or type no if you don't have rules yet, and you kind of know that you need to have rules, and you kind of know some of the rules that you may want to have, but you don't have a written plan with written rules that are your kind of like your bread and butter. Okay, so type yes and no, please, in the chat box, so I get to understand better what you also need from me moving forward as well. Okay, guys, and again, I will not be sharing that. It's just for my information, so I can help you better. Okay. Now back to the chart while you guys are typing. So again, let's talk about a process on how to find market opportunities. Okay, and I'm gonna start with futures, for example. Okay, so one very easy way to look at a process is to either use a scanner, okay, or use a watch list. So you need to have a starting point, which is either a watch list or a scanner, right? Now the watch list is static. The watch list is what I have on the left. So for example, I got the S&P. So if I click on S&P futures, it's gonna load the chart of the S&P, and then I need to plan a trade manually from scratch. That's what this is. Okay, which nothing wrong with this, but you guys were requesting saving time. So manual is good. And I personally like manual, but at the same time I like technology to assist me. So finding a balance maybe is the best way to do it. So maybe finding a balance could be involving a scanner in it. So here I created a scanner for futures. Okay, and what did I do? Well, I click on format. And when I look at format, my symbol universe, I added all the symbols that I want to trade: the S&P future, the Nasdaq, the Russell, all my equity indexes, my gold, my silver, my metals, my energies. So I have my universe of symbols to include. Okay, and then I have my scan criteria. So what do I have in the scan criteria? I have criteria, and the criteria are going to be my rules. So for example, and I am not saying this needs to be your rule, but let's say your rule was that you only want to trade markets that are trending markets that are already moving in a certain direction, knowing that one thing that happens with the trends is that they tend to last. So a market that is already moving in a certain direction is likely to remain moving in that certain direction unless you have UFOs against it. Is that making sense? So I'm not saying that the trend is going to be magic, but let's say not to take every single trade just because you have multiple UFOs on your screen and maybe you don't want to take them all. Let's say you decide to have a rule that looks for the trend. So what could you do? Well, you could do the same thing I showed you before with a 21 moving average and a 34. And if you were to use the operator greater than, that's going to be looking for markets moving up. Now I'm looking at this in a 5-minute time frame in this case. So if I run this scan, that will be phase 1 of looking for opportunities. Let me see, guys, because it seems that, okay, could you please confirm with a yes that you hear me and you see me? I just got a little interruption with the internet for a sec. Okay, it seems that you guys are good. Right, good, perfect. So now, after I run my scan, I ended up with 3 symbols. So if I move to the 5-minute time frame, let's see if we find a trade. If I move to the 5-minute time frame and I look at the S&P, and I look at the Nasdaq, and I look at the Russell index, notice that all those markets, as we speak, I mean, again, if I hide a few of those candles, you will clearly see that the market is in an uptrend. Now, what's the good news? Well, the good news is not that the market is in an uptrend. The good news is that it's likely to remain in an uptrend Anyone would like to tell me why I said it's likely to remain in an uptrend? Anyone has any thought that could explain why I said this market is likely to remain in an uptrend? Anyone? It would be great if you could type it in the chat box, because that's key to save you time and also help you with success. Okay, good. So yeah, the reason why this market is likely to remain in an uptrend, it's because the next UFO is very far away. So there is nothing from stopping the uptrend to develop. Okay, so in a case like this, okay, you would probably be happy to plan on a trade. Okay, to plan on a trade. So what would you do now? Well, let's talk about rules. Now, what's the problem I have with Russell? I got many UFOs. I have many. So which one do I do? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sometimes I'll have 2. Sometimes I'll have 1. Sometimes I'll have none. Sometimes I'll have 6. Sometimes I may have 10. So the question is, which one do I use? Well, one way to solve this issue is to look, again, I'm trying to kill two birds in one stone, to help you identify better trades, but also help you identify rules that you may want to have in your business plan. So take a look. This is, and this is just an example, okay, guys? We can talk more in depth about all of this in future sessions too, okay? So this is a very key point in this market at this moment in time. I guess we'll agree that. This one below is also a very key, obvious, very important point. Okay, so what could you do? Well, maybe you can use fibs, and not because fibs are magic, but because computers trade based on fibs. Okay, so this is going to be on-field orders that are not in the market yet, but may be in the market on top of the on-field orders that are in the market already. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to click on the beginning of the move to the end of the move. And now I got my 23, 38, 50, 61, 78, and 88% fibs. And then I'm going to do the opposite, which is click from the end of the move towards the top of the move, which is where this market is now. And if I do that, what do I find? Well, I find that this UFO has 1. Okay, so I'm just going to write here 1. Sorry, I was snapping, so my number 1 went down there. Let me move number 1 to a better location. So I have 1 here, 1 Fibonacci confluence right there. Okay, so I'll have the number 1. That UFO has no confluence. You have the magenta line below, but not within the UFO. That UFO has no confluence. That one is, you could argue, is kind of touching, but again, if you argue, you are not mechanical. So don't argue. If it's within the UFO, it's within the UFO. If it's outside, it's outside. It's black or white. That's it. That UFO has 1. Right here. That UFO has 1. And that UFO has 1 too. Okay, so you have 1 and 1, and make this dark blue so you can see this better. Okay, and then here you have 1 too. So out of this, what would be the conclusion? Well, the conclusion is that the area with the greatest concentration of fibs is here, which nicely line up with those UFOs. And again, I'm not saying fibs are magic. I'm just giving you rules for you to experience with. And then you can add them or not. And I will give you other variations of rules as well in future sessions, okay? But in this case, you have confluences of fibs lining up with those two UFOs, which on top of that, one is dark. That is appealing, okay? That is appealing. That may be the product of a high probability trade. That one here is dark and has one. That could be a good idea as well. That one here is a light UFO, okay, which was dark before, but is not dark anymore because this turning point is already happening, okay? So I would say that one, you are late to the party. The turning point already happened, okay? So I would simply ignore those three UFOs, even though they may work, okay? I would ignore them. If you were to use this set of tools, I would be attracted to these UFOs below, and also to the one here. Okay, but here's the tricky part. Okay, how is price going to come into the UFO? So right now this thing is here. Let's say this thing drops. Okay, let's say this is that market, and this market now drops in here. So now you want to buy. Well, if the market drops in here and you want to buy, well, that's exactly how it would look like. And as I just said, I would love to merge those two UFOs that are overlapping each other and take one trade with a very, very, very far target, all the way to where the red UFO is, all the way on the top. That could be a very valid trade. And what I'm doing here with the fibs is giving you rules on which UFOs to use and which UFOs to ignore, knowing that on top of that, you picked a market that is in an uptrend and is likely to remain in an uptrend by using the scanner. So I'm saving you time and giving you rules. Now, here's the tricky part. What if this market doesn't drop and goes higher? And after going higher, then it drops to this UFO. Well, here's the problem. The problem would be now that this fib would be located in a different location, right? And if that was the case, well, now actually you have three fibs overlapping each other that make it even better. Instead of two, now you have three magenta lines here, but none here anymore. None here anymore. So basically, what I concluded by applying this set of tools with the fibs, which basically is draw the fibs on the way down from an obvious turning point to the next obvious turning point, and draw the fibs on the way up from the obvious turning point until the current price. And when that market comes back to your UFO, if you have a collection of fibs, which in this case is 3, lining up with your UFOs, you have a trade. Okay, if your UFOs don't have fibs or are lighter color, or they have only one fib where other UFOs got multiple fibs that are on top of each other, then ignore the UFOs, because even though they are high probability, well, they are less probability because you have the on-field orders that are already present, but you have less probability of new on-field orders to kick in, right? And on top of that, now you killed another bird with a same stone, which is now you have a way to filter the amount of UFOs that you have on a chart and only use the ones that are more relevant to you and ignore the rest. You guys, please share with me, how do you feel about this process? And again, this video is going to be posted, so you guys can certainly go ahead and rewatch all of this, and we'll get deeper into following sessions as well, okay? Yeah. Yeah. Got it, guys? Okay. Yeah, it seems that all good. So you know what? Let's do it one more time. Let's pick another market. So now we have done this with the Russell futures. So what about we do it with stocks? So what am I doing with stocks now? Well, with stocks, now I'm looking at formatting stocks, and I have, okay, let's look at stocks with at least $50 per share, at least a $1 million contracts traded, stocks that are in an uptrend, but now because it's stocks, I'm going to look at the daily time frame, daily, and I'm doing the same 21 and 34. And then, of course, because it's stocks, I would be more inclined to trade options on stocks. So I'm going to look at the open interest of options, and I want at least 150,000 contracts for those markets. So let's click run. And this will take a little longer because, of course, the stock market got like close to 9,000 symbols. So this is going to take a little more time. No problem, Mr. Giles. No problem at all. Thank you for saying. So let's be patient here. So first pass 100%, second pass 100%. Now it's calculating the next pass. So we just need to be patient here for a sec. And I'm pretty sure that TradeStation will have this for us in a minute. Okay, and the moment we have it, I'm going to apply the same thing, but now I would do it to a daily time frame. So I'm going to change the time frame already. So I'm ready for that. It's actually strange that it's not processing. Okay, now it's processing. Here we go. It took a while to be, oh yes, I know why, because I deleted the cache folder earlier when I thought I had a problem with my data feed. So anyway, so we're gonna have to wait 22% to get to 100%, and then we'll have a process to follow with the stock. Okay, and we'll do something similar, and hopefully I'll make my point. Hopefully this will help you as well to understand better a little process that is simple, that takes little time, so you can practice it, and then next session we can go deeper into things. Okay, so I guess that it's taking a while for TradeStation to calculate, given the fact that it first has to download all the data. So you know what, not to consume much of your time, even though it's moving now, 34, 35%. Let me load Facebook, for example, and if it takes a while because it's reloading all the data, I will do an example with Facebook, and we'll use it as an example. Okay, I think we can certainly use Facebook as an example. I think that would be a good idea. So now in this one, I would say we need to be a little more careful. Okay, because if I was to add those two averages, okay, the 21 and the 34, like I would have in the filtering system. The filtering system was looking for uptrend. This is obviously a downtrend. Well, if you were to look at Facebook as a downtrend, remember the beauty of the trends is that they tend to last, but they last until they reach the green UFOs, right? And look at what's just happening here. A green UFO just formed. Another green UFO is right there. So this downtrend may not last forever on Facebook. Okay, so you need to be very realistic as well in that sense. It's a complete different picture if you compare this one with the one we had before, where the rival UFO was so far away. In this case, the rival UFO is so close. Okay, so careful there. So what would you do? Well, you would do the same things I said before. You would look for that prior obvious turning point, beginning of the downtrend. Earlier it was beginning of the uptrend, now it's beginning of the downtrend. And then you would, okay, let me move my screen because the blue circle just got stuck there. And then you would just go for the obvious turning point, beginning of the prior uptrend. And what would you do with this? Well, you would just apply your fibs. You would go from beginning to the end, going up first, and then you would go from the beginning to the end, going down. And what do we see? Well, we see that this UFO has one fib lining up. Okay, that UFO got nothing. This UFO got nothing, and this UFO got 2. Okay, we got 2 fibs lining up. So Anyone would like to type on the chat box which is the UFO I would like the best for me to execute a short trade? Anyone would like to type the numbers? Which UFO? Was it the 184, the 167, the 159, the 149? There are two UFOs that catch my attention here. Anyone would like to type the numbers? And also, we got our list that just popped up. It took a while because I had to reload my cache folder, so that's why. But anyway, I got 69 stocks that you could analyze in this way very quickly, just by clicking on the symbols in here. And if you want to make the list less, just be a little more demanding with the parameters. Okay, you can just come in here and say, you know what, I want the options more liquid. So instead of 150, type 200,000. Okay, you just type 200,000. And now you're going to have less results. Okay, or, and by the way, I keep referring to, when I ask you to type comments, I keep referring to the chat box. Really, there, if you are using YouTube, you have a chat panel on the right. If you are using Eyes On, and you have a full screen, then you don't see the box for the chat. Okay, so you may want to hit on the escape key on your keyboard. Then you can type and then you maximize again. Okay, so that way you can interact with me. So you can change those parameters, and these would make your list of 69 to be less. Okay, let me rerun it with 200 and see what happens. Okay, in the meantime, I have the answer 150. Very good. Okay, very good. 150 is certainly a good idea. Okay, the only problem I have with this one is a profit margin. A profit margin in the sense that this would be where you expect this Facebook stock to fall. So you will want to sell here because it's where the sell on field orders are. You would want to place your stop in the white zone. So your exit, okay, would be here. That would be your exit here. In case you're wrong, that would be your stop. And of course, we're talking about shorting here. And if this trade happens the way it is now, then your take profit exit should be here, right? And this may be like a 2.5 to 1, which is okay, but it's not amazing. Okay. Now here's the good news, and I think with this comment, maybe we can finalize our session today. But here's the good news. You see, when you look at those UFOs, you see the inner circle. Sometimes it's below, sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's bigger, sometimes it's smaller. Do you guys see that? So this is where the maximum concentration of orders is, okay, based on the algo. So what is the good news? The good news is that this green UFO have the greatest concentration of orders just at the beginning of the green UFO, which means that if these markets, if this Facebook stock was to just drop a little bit, hit those on-field orders, and from there bounce and get to your red UFO. Well, what's the good news? Well, the good news is that now I would suggest that your profit doesn't go there anymore. Your profit goes all the way here. Why? Because the majority of the on-field orders to buy will be taken out. And this UFO would even become very light green or simply disappear, right? So it really depends on what's going to happen to that green UFO. I mean, the trade is not a bad trade, but it would be a much better trade if this darker circle was hit right at the open tomorrow before Facebook goes back up. And then when it gets to 150, let's go for it. That would be the idea, okay? Cool. So let's come in here, supply and demand trader. So I'm putting this on the stream. So Could we also filter to volatile options so we can work out which ones are the good ones for credit spreads? Yes, certainly we can do some things like that. Expect as well that we will be developing many additional tools on top of the UFOs that will make your life easier. And depending on your needs, it's fantastic, supply and demand trader, that you're sharing these thoughts, because those thoughts in the end to our developers is needs. And out of the needs, we'll be able to develop more tools to make your life easier too. Okay. Today we're going to conclude the session, but even without those other tools that we will add as time passes, there are ways for you to be able to filter options and identify options with high levels of premium. So when selling credit spreads or strangles or straddles or iron condors or all those credit strategies, you do it with many advantages on your side. The advantage that is the fact that options are overpriced and you sell very hefty premium, but also the fact that you have your UFOs, which will give you a much greater probability to have the price of the market you trade under control. Anyway, everybody, it's been very good to spend like an hour and a half with you. We'll be doing that every week. We'll be gaining more structure as we go. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is the 4th session that we did together. So we will be adding more and more structure as we go. We'll get more organized. We will probably end up even doing specialized sessions for intraday only, sessions for options only, sessions for the long-term investors only, even probably different languages as well. Okay, so so that way we'll give support to everyone. Okay, so thank you for being here, guys. Thank you for supporting us, of course. Enjoy the UFOs, and of course, don't forget, if you have any question, send your messages, send your emails to reach@tradewithufos, and we'll be sending soon the link for the recording. We'll be sending soon the next date and the next time for the next gathering, the next getting together. Okay, guys. My alien trader friends, thank you very much for being here with the UFOs. And as I said once, which I think is maybe funny, maybe not too funny, I'm not sure, but such a real thing. The less human we are when we trade, the better traders we are. So let's be alien. Let's not be humans, and let's trade with UFOs, guys. So take care, my friends. Thank you for being here. And of course, please communicate with us, send your requests, your questions, etc. Okay? See you soon, guys. Bye-bye.